morning. Welcome back to the Retirement Report. I'm Hank Parrott, your host. All right, we've been talking about healthcare costs as one of the retirement income dilemmas, right? So we're going to go right into the retirement income challenge. Consumer estimate of annual healthcare costs. A lot of people just don't understand just how much money they're going to have to pay. So this next chart will show you that. For instance, one of the things that we get into, if you look at the average cost, this is a study that was done, or a survey basically, that showed what people actually thought their costs were going to be. So this is for adults age 50 plus, estimating what they expect their health care costs to be in retirement. And you can see that about 78% have totally underestimated what their costs are going to be. And this is not a good plan, right? So if you're underestimating, what does that mean when retirement comes? All of a sudden you're going to have a very bad surprise when you see what those costs actually are. As I mentioned, based on the numbers there at 260 to 400,000 over a 20-year period, that means you're going to have an average that's going to range from about $12,000 up to $20,000 a year in out-of-pocket costs. Now that may seem kind of crazy to you, right? So I'm going to show you how that is exactly how that happens. So first off, let's look at Medicare. What does Medicare cover? What's an understanding? A lot of people have misunderstandings about what Medicare covers and what it don't. So for one of the myths, in fact, is that Medicare is going to cover most or all of your medical expenses. And the reality is it only covers about 62% of those costs. That means, yes, you're covering 38% of them out of pocket. And I'm going to, again, break this down for you. Medicare will cover your long-term care needs. This is another big myth. All right, Medicare does not cover long-term care. At the most you can get is 100 days of coverage, and that's based on even on certain criteria, like needing 3 days. You'd have to be in a hospital for 3 days first. You'd then have to, if you go to a rehab, I'll give you an example. God forbid you have a stroke, right? You go to the hospital, you're there for probably well beyond 3 days. But then maybe a rehab facility, which is similar to a nursing home, but basically you're out of the hospital and now they're trying to get you better again to where you're hopefully able to resume life and have all your abilities back again. So one of the things there with rehab that you get into, then you have during rehab, you have to be showing that you're making certain progress or certain markers that they have to be able to establish for Medicare to keep paying any kind of money. And then up to 100 days, after 100 days, you're on your own. They don't cover anymore after that. And this is where long-term care insurance, or at least a long-term care plan, sometimes many of my clients have enough assets to where we show them how they can self-insure, but we set aside, we show how to do that with the money and where it's all going to come from. Or if long-term care is needed, there are other ways that you can get it, and we're going to talk about that more as well. All right, understanding health care. So health care expenses, the breakout, Medicare cost-sharing provisions, 45%. Your premiums for Medicare, so that's be like your deductibles and copays and such. Premiums for Medicare. Now you're looking at your Part B, which is your and I'm going to break this down for you, but Part A is hospitalization, Part B is outpatient services, Part D is your prescription services, and again, your out-of-pocket prescription drug expenses over and above what the premiums are. All of these, and then so let's look at the next slide, and I'll break these down for you. All right, so option one. This is your original Medicare. So original Medicare, you've got Part A and Part B. Part A is hospitalization, as I mentioned. Part B is outpatient coverage, and then you have again Part D for prescriptions, and then your secondary coverage, which would be where you buy what is known as a Medicare supplement plan or Medigap plan. Well, this is insurance to cover the deductibles and the co-insurance not covered by your premiums alone. All right, Medicare Advantage is a option 2, also known as Medicare Part C. This is where you combine them all. Your hospitalization, your outpatient, and your prescriptions can all be in one plan, and we're going to talk about the differences of those as well. But if you understand how the healthcare cost works, option 1, let's talk about a little bit more on the next slide. And this is your Medicare Part A, your hospital insurance. All right, so inpatient hospitalization, skilled nursing facilities, home health care, hospice, all of that falls under original Medicare. So that'll be on the next slide. Patient costs for in-hospital stay in 2016, and this hasn't changed much in this last year. No, we need to go to the next slide. There we go. All right, days 1 through 60, there we go. So you can see inpatient hospitalization, days 1 through 60, you got a $1,288 deductible. This is one of the reasons for a Medigap plan. All right, skilled nursing facilities, again, as I mentioned, 61 through 90, up to 100 days. 61 through 90, you got a copay of $322 per day. Home health care, 91 through 150, $644 per day copay. And in hospice, on days 150, there's no cost there. All right. Understanding healthcare on the next slide, Medicare Part B, and this is where we're looking at doctors and providers. So basically, individual pays your monthly premium for Part B, which is I'm gonna break that down for you. It's gone up, by the way, over the last few years. So we'll start with what 104. And how it's gone up, and then based on your income, what your premium may be. But basically, option B is, again, this is your outpatient, your doctors, providers, preventative benefits, durable medical equipment, outpatient services. You have a monthly premium, which is based on that MAGI, which is your modified adjusted gross income. You've got a $166 deductible and 20% co-insurance on doctor services. So if you didn't have a Medicare supplement policy, those are things you would be paying out of pocket. All right, so now if we look at the next slide, we can see what the premiums actually are. And here again, and this was in 2016, it was at 104. It actually went up in 2016 to 121.80, and then this year, 2017, it's up to $134 a month. So your premiums, and that's based on, if you'll see, for instance, where it's got, that's based on your income. So for a couple making $170,000 or less, that's what you'd pay is $134 a month now per person. All right, for your Medicare Part B. So that's $268, right, for a couple. And then if you made more, it's got at 170, well, it's now 187. In fact, the top rate is now up to $428 out of pocket, potentially, depending on your income. So again, this can be a big expense. Even at the low end, it's at $268 for a couple per year, per month. So if you take that for a year, that's over $3,000, of course. All right, so another thing, next is the prescription piece. So option one under your Medicare Part D on prescription drug coverage, there's a couple of ways you can do it, with a standalone prescription drug plan, or again through Medicare Advantage plans. So Part D, if you have original Medicare, would be a standalone plan that you get through an insurer, and that cost is going to range, we're going to, again, depending, but basically around $30 to $40 a month. It's available, again, through Medicare Advantage plans. You're kind of encompassing these in one plan. All people with Medicare can get Part D. Open enrollment, now this slide's a little dated. This was for 2016. The open enrollment this year is actually November 1st through December 15th. So we're right at the beginning stages of that open enrollment period, and coverage then would begin January 1st, 2018. All right, so again, option one, Medicare Part D, understanding this one. This is one of the most complex of the different pieces when it comes to Medicare. Part D, and we didn't have prescription coverage at all up until, at least under the original Medicare, up until that was passed with President Bush with regard to, I think it was back in 2001 or something around, or no, it would have been 2007, I think. So about 10 years ago. So anyway, Part D, what happens there is you have the coverage where you've got on the very bottom of the page, it's showing that the beneficiary pays a $360 deductible, all right? Of the first $360, in other words, is your out-of-pocket cost for prescriptions. After you've met that, after you've paid the first $360, then Medicare will kick in and pay 75% of your prescription costs, beneficiary up to $660, because this is up to the next $3,310, which means your out-of-pocket is going to be about $660 on that, or flat copay amounts based on what kind of plan or what kind of prescription you're getting. Then you have this big donut hole, and this is one of the more controversial things, right? Because there you're now, after you hit that $3,300, for the next $3,700, you're paying 100% of those costs. All right. So again, that's a big gap. That's the one that you have to, depending on if you're taking a lot of prescriptions or very expensive prescriptions, this is one of the things that's going to be a big cost to you. And then once you go past that, we have the catastrophic piece that kicks in, and 95% of your Medicare benefit being covered. All right, so understanding Medicare. All right, one of the things that we're looking at with Medigap, or Medicare supplement insurance, because when you have with original Medicare, Part A, the hospitalization, no premium, but you still have deductibles and copay. Part B, that's your outpatient. Again, you pay a premium, but now in addition to that premium, you still have deductibles and copays that you're liable for. And then a Part D, I just broke down for you as well. You have a premium, and again, you still have out-of-pocket costs. So a Medicare supplement plan can help at least with the Part A and Part B. It does not provide any kind of prescription coverage. So this is one of the things to understand. Now, the plus side of original Medicare, or one of those that people like, is the flexibility to see any doctor who accepts Medicare. Again, it doesn't cover prescription, doesn't cover vision, by the way, and it doesn't cover dental. Medicare Advantage plans, we're going to compare those and how they work, and we'll get into the premiums involved with Medicare supplements as well, so you can see how these costs, how you can control them. Again, there are strategies involved to help you minimize costs, and then, of course, strategies to help you make sure that we set aside enough money to cover those costs. More on that when we return, but first a quick break. Join me here. We'll be right back on the Retirement Report.
The time